Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever and whenever you are, and welcome to another episode of Take the Points, a true underdog podcast. Hey, everybody. You have Robbie here. It is Saturday, October 11th. I'm here doing a special episode, a therapy episode, you might call it, as we sit here today, one day post Detroit Tigers epic loss to the Seattle Mariners in Game 5 of the ALDS. You know, it was back and forth of, when kind of wanted to jump on the pod and decided that today was needed, not only for myself, but hopefully for some of you out there that maybe are struggling with comprehending this loss and kind of dealing with all the emotions. Thought it would be really, really, really good to jump on here. Not going to talk about the Red Wings, what a ripping start they've had against the Canadiens, getting booed off their ice 5-1 at home. We're not going to talk about the Yzerplan. There's another time, another day for that. Our Lions, great victory last week in Cincinnati. I was there to watch it live in person. Really impressed. Big game coming up tomorrow night on Sunday. This pod may drop on Sunday. I'm recording this on Saturday. So big game tonight, potentially, depending on when you're listening. Hopefully the Lions can obviously pull it out, going to Kansas City, dealing with a ton of injuries. We'll see kind of what shakes out. But guys, today's episode, it's probably not going to be a full hour, but had to get on here and just talk about the conclusion of the Tigers season and just my overall emotional reaction to the game last night. Kind of what I think this means for the Tigers moving forward, and just wanted to give a synopsis of kind of where my mindset is. I consider myself a pretty avid Tigers fan. I got all the Detroit Tigers stuff behind me. I'm a proud 1901 Society member with a Friday night season ticket package. I was in person both games last week for the ALDS, and baseball's true to my heart, and I love baseball. I think playoff baseball is unmatched with any other playoff experience. The only thing I could maybe think is a hockey Game 7 type atmosphere, but when you're literally sitting on every single pitch in playoff baseball, it's really hard to find anything better than it. But obviously, let's just start with the reaction. So Tigers fall last night, or this morning, I guess I should say, 3-2 against the Seattle Mariners. Why am I having trouble saying that? In Game 5 of the ALDS. Unfortunately, Seattle punches their ticket to the ALCS to face the Toronto Blue Jays on Sunday night, or at least whatever's left of the Seattle Mariners. I think their bullpen and arms are most likely dead, just like the Tigers. But last night, we'll talk about the loss, what happened. I'm sure maybe a lot of people that have listened to me on this pod or maybe expect me to come on here and, bitch about AJ Hinch pulling Scooble and how bad the Tigers are. And I don't have the gas to do it. I have a different perspective today, and maybe that's not what people want to hear, but last night I was texting with a lot of my buddies, like the whole night. Honestly, it was a memory I won't forget. But, last night is why you love sports. These games are why sports are so great and why I will forever be a lifelong sports fan. There's only going to be one winner in a game, right? Especially a game like last night. Obviously, you can have ties in football and such. But, from a baseball perspective, it doesn't get any better. From a sports perspective, it doesn't get any better than the 15-inning marathon that I feel blessed to have watched last night. Would I like to come on here and be celebrating a Tigers victory that they're going to the ALCS? Of course. I had already bought my ticket, was ready to go, wanted a chance to play for the World Series. But last night gave you, from a fan perspective, everything you could possibly ask for. The drama of an odd first run scored with a stolen base from Josh Naylor, who is the most random stat ever. He's 30 for 30 in steals this year, and he's the second slowest guy in the major leagues. What? What is that stat? Never would have known that. Scooble gives up it's a kind of a cheapy run, right? One of those, 1-0 lead, and you're thinking this is Cleveland all over again, where their ball doesn't leave the infield. The Tigers offense just, last night I felt like they were hitting the ball well too. Honestly, like they were making contact with the ball, at least early on. They just were having some hard outs. Kerry Carpenter comes up and just hits an absolutely mammoth mammoth home run. I mean, I was just screaming in my basement at that moment and just thinking, this is it. Like, this is the big hit that they've been waiting for. I felt similar in game 2 when Torkelson had that 2-run double to tie the game. You felt like this could be one of those signature moments, especially in the game last night, the way that Skubal was pitching. Unfortunately, they end up pulling Skubal after 6. Comes in, Kyle Finnegan comes in. I think he, struck out a guy or two and then walks a guy. And then, Tyler Holton comes in, ends up giving up a hit to a rookie that had his first hit ever in the majors, of course, or in the playoffs, I should say, to drive in the tie and run. And then ultimately the Tigers lose in extras, which we can get to. But just so many emotions last night is just where I want to start. And then I know I'm all over the place, but I'll get into the game. But just, that's just what makes sports great. The depression setting in when you're down 1-0 in the 5th or 6th inning there, thinking this offense is never going to come alive. We can't lose a game 1-0. I was even saying, man, I wish it was 8-0 just because I want this just to be a blowout instead of having to sit there and just get whittled to death with a 1-0 loss. To this magic moment from Kerry Carpenter hitting this absolute, like the highest home run I've ever seen. It didn't even look like it was going to get out, and it just clears the right field wall. I mean, absolutely erupts. You got Javi Baez on base, thinking this is it, right? Like, we literally just have to get through, 9 outs essentially, right? Skubal ends up going one more in the 6th. You get to the 7th, they ended up pulling Skubal. I think he was at 90 some pitches. And things kind of went downhill from there in terms of the regulation innings. And then obviously once we got to extras, things kind of picked up. But let's just start with Tarik Skubal. This guy's an absolute stud. There's no other way to put it. 6 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 0 base balls on base. I mean, 13 Ks. Think about that. 18 outs total he got in 6 innings. 13 of those were strikeouts. That is absolutely incredible. Dropped his ERA to 1.74. He threw 99 strikes. I mean, just this guy was all over the place last night. He was incredible. I mean, that is, of all the pitching performances I've seen in Tigers history, that is up there with me with the Justin Verlanders of the world. I mean, it's you can't ask for more from your starter. And what I want to jump into right away is there's going to be complaining about, why didn't Skubal stay in, keep him in a couple more batters, let him pitch 110 pitches. Do you think Tarik Skubal would have come out of that game if he didn't want to? No. You heard AJ Hinch on the post-game press conference. He said, Tarik and I both knew that 6th inning was going to be his last inning. If you watched that game last night, and the announcers just could not stop talking about how many pitches that Seattle was kind of falling off and just taking so many deep counts in the game, Skubal was gassed. He was gassed. He was in high stress. And I say high stress, maybe not base runners, but just a lot of 3-2 counts, 2-2 counts, 3-1 counts where he had to battle back. And, they were saying on the broadcast last night, Skubal pitches on emotion. And that guy, while number of pitches may seem okay, it was only at 93, 95. Guys, this is what we've seen all year from this guy. He's not going to go out there and throw 120 pitches. So we can sit here and do the, hindsight 2020 game. And we did not lose this game, in my opinion, because Tarik Skubal didn't pitch one more inning or didn't pitch one more batter. We lost this game because we couldn't get a guy on base. We couldn't get a hit when we needed to. That's why we lost this game. Tarik Skubal was spectacular last night. He showed why he is the best pitcher in all of baseball. He showed to me why he is deserving of a second straight Cy Young. This guy encompasses everything you want from a starter in a must-win game. And I'm sad. I'm sad for him because he pitched so damn good. He deserved to win that game last night. He deserved to win that game. 100%. You can give George Kirby credit on the other side. I mean, 5 innings pitched, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 6 Ks. I mean, the 13 strikeouts to me, they just could not catch up to Skubal. He was just playing around with them last night. There was emergency hacks trying to get hits. I mean, even that first run was an emergency hack by Naylor, and then you get the The steal, it just was fluky. And Skubal's had a couple has had that happen to him a couple times. There's a reason for that. It's because the batters know we got to do something or we're going to lose this game. So kudos to Skubal. I'll touch a little bit later on what I think is going to happen this offseason, but regardless, just could not be more proud of him. It was fun to watch. I'm glad he has, the Detroit Tigers jersey on. I wish it could have ended better for him. Truly, he deserved better than what he got last night. And it was disappointing to see what happened in the bullpen. But again, everything you saw last night was just a microcosm of what we've seen this season. Skubal comes out, Finnegan ultimately comes in and, pitches, really he got 2 outs, I think, but he gave up, one hit, 1 run, base on balls. The reality is we knew, guys, that this back end of this bullpen was a problem. Getting from Skubal to Vest, which is what we hoped, was always going to be murky. I mean, Finnegan had really gotten hit up this series too. It's just ever since he came back from the DL with his abductor strain, or abdominal strain, whatever it was, he just was not the same pitcher. And he's not a big strikeout guy either. Most of our bullpen guys are contact pitchers, right? You saw it on the other side last night with the Mariners. They got a ton of guys that can throw gas. They got big arms that can come in and throw strikes. That's just not the Tigers game. And when you play in that space, you walk a guy like Finnegan did, and late in the inning like that, that's what happens. The Tigers were 9 outs away from closing this thing out, and they just weren't able to do it. And again, we had seen this throughout the year, but just got to give kudos to the rest of the staff. I mean, Finnegan, obviously, and Holton ended up giving up the run, but Vest was money, Melton was money, Montero was money, and Flaherty too worked out of it. And Tommy Kahnle, call me surprised, was the pitcher that came in and loses the game. As soon as he came in, I honestly knew it was cooked. That guy cannot strike guys out. All he does is throw breaking balls. He tried to mix in some fastballs. He's walked way too many guys. His stuff is just not missing bats. And that's just against a team like Seattle. It's not going to be good enough. And it wasn't last night. And a lot of that blame I put on Scott Harris. He knew there was a bullpen problem. He tried to go to the dollar store and fix this. It did not work. And look what happened. That's what happened. That's what came to be last night. But just incredible pitching effort from Tarik Skubal, and really from both staffs. I mean, guys, if you were watching, Will Vest was a man possessed last night, right? He goes 2 innings, got 6 outs, 4 of them strikeouts. Incredible. Troy Melton comes in. I mean, guy was just throwing gas, right? I mean, think about it. This is guy's first year in the majors. Second half of the season, really, when he came up. Kiner Montero, what an epiphany he was in the playoffs, right? This guy's out there, he had a 4.5 ERA in the regular season. I mean, your 5th, 6th starter. Dude's out there looking like Mariano Rivera last night. The way he was pitching, the confidence, the gas that he had. I mean, getting some of those double plays the Tigers were able to get in extra innings. I mean, same with Jack Flaherty. Did not have his best stuff, obviously. But gets out of guys on first and second with no out, strike out, pop out, and a double play. I mean, just what you saw last night from both sides of this team was the analogy I keep thinking in my mind. I was telling my wife this earlier today is it's like the end of a boxing match, or anyone that's been in kind of these long athletic competitions, right? I'm just imagining at the end of this game, one boxer throws a punch, the Mariners throw a punch, the Tigers come back. I mean, you're on your last leg. These guys damn near played 2 full games. 2 full games. You just have to appreciate that for the incredible game that it was. But again, Tommy Kahnle coming in at the end was you just knew that was what was going to happen. In terms of like second guessing of what I maybe would have done there, is the reality is I would not have wanted to see Tommy Kahnle in that game at all last night. Other options of the bullpen, you could have gone Hannafy there. You could have caught Brent Herter, but I didn't know if they were going to do that with the lefty-righty matchup. And so, it ended up being Kahnle's time. I mean, think about who pitched before Tommy Kahnle. That's how bad Kahnle is. You had Melton, Montero, and Flaherty who have all pitched recently in the past couple games. Those dudes covered 5 innings of baseball. Those guys pitched before you had to go to Tommy Kahnle. And that just shows where the bullpen was at. It was all hands on deck. Seattle kept doing the same thing too. And it was cool seeing these guys warm up and just these starters coming on. I mean, it was all hands on deck to try and win this game. And unfortunately, the Tigers weren't able to get it done. But in terms of what went wrong last night, again, this is not a surprise. I mean, guys, we were begging for hits last night, begging. This entire series. The offense absolutely fluttered. It fluttered, it failed. We had one big breakout game. Our pitching was so great this offseason that, it really allowed us, I think, to hide some of the inefficiencies on the offensive side because we would win these 2-1 games, 3-2 games. But you look at the Mariners lineup, their lineup is better than ours. They have better hitters than we do across the board, without a doubt. But we got to talk about what went wrong with these hitters last night. Again, there may be some controversy of the Tigers lost the game because they pulled Skubal. You can't say that that's not why they lost. Listen, if Skubal wanted to stay in the game, I think he would have stayed in the game. I think he told AJ, I'm out. I'm gassed. I'm done. I gave everything I want. I want to give my team a position, put my team in the best position to win, which looking back, the best position to win was probably him pitching all damn 9 innings or getting us at least through 7. Then you go vest to 8 and 9. That's where I think we would have hoped, right? One more inning out of Skubal, pitch 110 pitches. If he didn't have it, he didn't have it. You want to question his heart? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to get on here and say this guy doesn't care. You cannot say that. 13 strikeouts. I mean, come on. This guy has been our savior the entire year. I'm not giving him shit. I'm not saying that he's not weak. I'm not saying that he's weak. I'm not saying he's not strong. No way. This guy was our horse, and we rode him as long as we could. We all got to be proud of the way that he pitched, and I'm not going to put this game on him. I'm not going to put this game saying he didn't have enough heart to come back out. I can't do it. I'm not a professional pitcher. I don't know what it takes to pitch, but I bet his emotions last night were pretty damn high. And if he felt like he didn't have it, he was turning it over to someone fresh in the bullpen. Color me shocked, right? Wait, I got to get 9 outs from a bullpen? Yeah, welcome to Major League Playoff baseball. And we didn't have enough guys to be able to do it. But the hitting last night is where things were wrong. I mean, Kerry Carpenter, just kudos. Kudos to Kerry. This guy's bat. He had some huge homers in this series. Guy damn near won us 2 games by himself. Incredible. He goes 4 for 5 last night. 2 RBIs, obviously had the home run, 2 base on balls, 1 strikeout. They just could not get Kerry Carpenter out. Left, right-handed, did not matter. Did not matter. This guy was on a roll last night, and rightfully so. He deserved to stay in the game. But guys, we got to look after that. I just want you to hear these next stats for the Tigers. So Kerry Carpenter went 4 for 5. By the way, we had 8 hits, which means Kerry Carpenter had half of our hits over almost 2 games. Think about that. 15 innings. It's almost 2 games. Now the Mariners only had 8 hits too, so it's not like they were anything special to write home about. But the point here is Gleyber Torres, 6 at-bats, 0 hits, 1 base on balls. Riley Green, 6 at-bats, 0 hits, 1 base on balls. Spencer Torkelson, 6 at-bats, 0 hits, 0 base on balls, 4 strikeouts. Colt Keith, 5 at-bats, 0 hits, 3 strikeouts. Zach McKinstry got 1 hit. Dylan Dingler ended up getting 2 hits. Parker Meadows, 5 at-bats, 0 for 5 with 3 strikeouts. Javi Baez went 1 for 6 with 1 K. Let's do the math on that. 6, 12, 18, 23, 28. Of 28 at-bats between Meadows, Torres, Green, and Torkelson, you were 0 for 28. Can't happen. Cannot happen. Cannot happen. Cannot happen. That is where you lost the game. You cannot have your 2, 3, 4, and 5 hitters not record a hit in a game. In between them, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 strikeouts between them. You can't have that happen. Kerry's getting on base. No one can bring him in. I mean, just that's where we lost this series. Watching these guys struggle at the plate last night just showed this team is not World Series ready. This talent is not World Series ready. And we saw that the last couple of weeks, guys. This is not anything that's earth-shattering. Your biggest hitters have to come up in the biggest moments. And they did not. The MVP of the Tigers this entire postseason, outside of Tarek Skubal, you can make an argument for Will Vest, was Javi freaking Baez. Last night, and you guys know I've been a big hater on Baez. It was the first time I was looking forward to the next Baez at bat because you could just tell the guy had been there before and was ready for the moment. And I know he only had 1 hit. Totally understand that. It's not like he had a great game last night. He had 1 K, 1 for 6. Totally understand. The guy was just possessed this offseason or this postseason. He played great defense. And I look at the core of this lineup and I don't see a competitive team that can win a World Series. Gleyber Torres is going to walk. Came out last night. He was actually playing with a hernia, so not a shock there. Like, the dude was battling. Really good plate discipline. Was, I think, top 5 in the majors this year of chase rate. Did not strike out a lot. You saw him the last couple of weeks, really since September, really started to scuffle. You wonder if that was this injury that we heard about. But this is Riley, Green, Torkelson, and Keith. I mean, that was just embarrassing. It was embarrassing. They did not do any good by Tarek Skubal. Green looked out overmatched. I mean, hitting ground balls to first base. I mean, how many rollovers to first base can we get for all of our hitters? Did you see last night the broadcast kept nauseating how they're not throwing fastballs, they're not throwing fastballs, they're not throwing fastballs, because the Tigers couldn't hit the splitter or the slider. They could not hit it. They could not catch up. How many 0-2, 1-2 counts did the Tigers hitters get in last night? And you knew that we were cooked, just waving at balls outside of the zone, even in the strike zone. It doesn't matter. It feels like they were laying off pitches that were right down Broadway, chasing stuff outside of the zone. And that's my biggest frustration with this team is you just needed one hit last night. One hit. And you could say the same for Seattle. Seattle hasn't been struggling like we've been for the last month and a half with this, though. This has been going on since September, since August, our inability to get the big hit. I just kept saying it. I'm sure everybody thought last night, just one. And they weren't able to get it. And I have real long-term questions about Riley, Green, and Torkelson in the heart of this order. I do. Maybe overreaction last night, but you look at what Scott Harris finds this team on, right? It's about being, throwing strikes, which I think our pitchers do a decent job of. I think they were middle of the pack. And your batters, maintaining the strike zone and being patient, drawing long counts. That's not what our team does. Riley Green led the majors led the majors in strikeouts this year because he was chasing. Just did not look comfortable at the plate, did not look like he had a competitive at bat last night. You look at the other side of things and it's, Cal Riley, it's not like he was anything to write home last night either. He was 1 for 5. Rodriguez was 0 for 5. Polanco was 1 for 6, but a guy like Josh Naylor was 3 for 6. That matched Carpenter at that point. They just got hits at the right time. It's not about, to me, the volume of hits, but you just look at, like I said, 28 bats or whatever it was, 25 at bats. You don't get one hit in that. And why that matters is look at what happened in extras. How many times did we have guys on base? Baez, I thought he was, guy on second and third. McKinstry's on third, our best base runner with 1 out. All we need is a fly ball. Pitcher throws a perfect pitch. Of course, it breaks Baez's bat. Otherwise, that ball would have been in the outfield. Breaks his bat. Weak dribbler down the third base line. Pitcher's able to throw it back and get McKinstry out at home. I mean, it's just both of these teams just had chance after chance after chance to win this game, and neither did until ultimately the Tigers cracked. That's what happened here. With Canely and extras, walk, hit, got himself into a tough 3-2 count with the bases juiced and 1 out. I mean, you knew at that point he doesn't have the strikeout stuff, and that was it. And again, it's not like Seattle was great shakes either. That's what I want to, but they won. They beat you. You got to tip your cap and say that they beat you. I think Seattle was a better team than we were. I think they were across the board. Maybe they didn't play to their full potential, but you can't tell me Toronto versus Seattle isn't going to be better than, or is not going to be worse than what, Detroit versus Toronto would have been. Of course, you obviously want to get there, but I just think Seattle was the better team. Does it mean that they deserve to win? No, it doesn't. But last night they did. You know why? I kept telling myself, go win this game. Tigers, go win this game. We can't keep, we just squeaking out inning after inning, hoping it stays 1-0 or 2-1. Go win the game. Go win the game. And they didn't. And that's where I think, you want to talk about this locker room and this lineup. When you think about who started last night, Carpenter, Torres, Green, Torkelson, Keith, McKinstry, Dingler, and Meadows and Baez. Listen to that lineup. You tell me what's a sure thing in that lineup moving forward that you feel confident to say I can win a World Series with. You want to say Kerry Carpenter? I can buy that. I can buy that. You're maybe going to get pinch hit, but that guy's got a knack for hitting. He's clutch. He's got a knack for hitting now. He goes through his up and downs, but he's got his knack. Torres is gone. Green and Torkelson and Keith. I mean, Keith since his ribcage injury, I mean, he was horrible. Horrible. McKinstry to me, good player. I know he was an all-star. That's a platoon guy. That's a guy that comes in and pinch hits in the 7th or 8th. Defensive replacement. He shouldn't be a starting third baseman. Dylan Dingler, really proud of that guy. That guy caught 15 innings last night. Incredible. Parker Meadows, huge disappointment. Major disappointment. That guy was so good last year coming down the stretch, and this year just did not have it. Looked lost at the plate. Obviously plays a great defense, but even last night in that 7th inning, in the 15th inning, that fly ball out to him, he overthrew the cutoff man, which allowed the guy from first to go to second, which took out the double play. Just some real bonehead plays from him. Then you got a guy like Javi Baez. Is he Javi or is he Javier? We don't know. And so I think this offseason, they're going to have some real questions. I mean, this is a major, major offseason opportunity, challenge, kind of moment of truth for the Tigers. They got a great manager in AJ Hinch. They got a great pitching coach in Chris Fetter. We got a hell of a fan base with this Detroit fan base. They just need to have better talent, and they just need to have better players. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And you may have to part with some of these guys that you think are these, these monuments in your lineup, right? These guys that are these integral pieces. A guy like Riley Green, dude strikes out too much. He's a great hitter when he's on, but when he's not, he's horrible. He doesn't have what Riley Green doesn't have. He doesn't have an average play. He's either really good or he's horrible. Same with Torkelson. That's supposed to be your big, big hitter last night. He did absolutely nothing. He struck out 4 times and looked lost at the plate. And a guy like Cole Keith that was DHing, I know they gave him that deal obviously a couple of years ago on a good price. He's obviously going to come back, and I think he should. He's a young player, a lot of potential there. But, a guy like Green and Torkelson, you just really got to think about what does the future look like for those two guys? And is this a time when you think about making a move? How do you surround those guys with veteran players? This is where last night a guy like Alex Bregman comes in huge. He would have been the Josh Naylor for the Tigers, right? Veteran bat that's been through it, that can get you that big knock. They just didn't have that this year, and I still will live to it. Just the most non-clutch hitting team that I've seen. In the big moments, the guys that were getting clutch hits were the Baezes, were the Dinglers of the world, the Carpenters. It was not Green, Torkelson, Keith. Those guys just didn't have it. Torkelson with that double, I know in game 2 to take the lead or to tie the game, and then Riley had the go-ahead home run in the game that I was at in game 4 back in Detroit. They ended up piling on a lot more runs, and you hope that was maybe going to spark something, and it just never did. And I'm disappointed, but while I may sound frustrated, and of course I am, I feel like we squeezed the most out of this team that we could have squeezed based on what this talent level looks like. And the reality is, everyone wants to say, was this team the end of last year? Was it the start of this year? Was it the second half? The reality is this was a mediocre to good baseball team. They outperformed and outplayed their talent for a majority of the games this year. But come September, come playoff time, water found its level. I don't think Cleveland was that good. I think they had our number, but the Tigers had an epic collapse to lose the division. And I just think they got beat by Seattle. They got beat by a better team that happened to get a hit when they didn't. Did I want them to win? Of course. Am I bummed that they didn't win? Of course. But I think maybe the way that they lost last night, and maybe that's what has me in this coping mechanism of, losing a 15-inning game like they did. It feels like you cannot stretch a series any farther. It cannot be any more close than what it was last night. One team was going to come out on top and one team was going to lose. And the better team won because they were able to get a clutch hit and get to our pitchers. And kudos, hats off. And this may be controversial, guys, but I'm ready for this version of the Tigers team to be over. They were not fun to watch. They were not fun. It was stressful. It was like sitting on a bed of nails every time you watched this Tigers team play. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. It didn't matter what seat I sat in my house, what hat I had on, what shirt I had on. Was I wearing pants? Who knows? But we were just trying to figure out what can we do to try to break this jinx, right? Like how can I have a movement to try to bring the good karma to this game? I'll sit somewhere else. I'll watch it on a different TV. That wasn't going to work for this because this is skill. And I think this Tigers team is at a real pivotal point. That's 2 straight years of losing in Game 5 in the ALDS. 2, again, not similar games, but in both of those games, you had your ace on the mound and you lost both of those games. That's a tough pill to swallow. So if I look at that, I say this was not necessarily a pitching issue. The bullpen contributed. This was the inability to generate offense in clutch moments in in games that were must have. And that's something that the Tigers are going to have to look at this offseason. I mean, guys, just a ton of question marks. Tarek Skubal, he's got 1 year left on his deal, and then he may bounce. He's going to want $400 million, and a game like last night only solidifies that value to any other team that's watching him. The Yankees, the Dodgers, the Red Sox, anybody that knows they got big pockets says, I want that guy pitching for me, and I will surround him with talent. I was thinking today too, does this change my perspective on trading Skubal? I want this guy to be in the Tigers uniform because I think he's that good. And I know you're going to have to pay a ton for him. Do I think it's going to happen? No, I don't, because I think Chris Ilitch is cheap as hell. And I think Scott Harris is going to say, we're some of the parts, and we're going to trade Skubal potentially and get a lot of parts and hope that those parts are greater than just one individual player. Do I agree with that? Not necessarily, no, because I think Skubal's incredible. Do I want to give a pitcher $400 million? Nope, don't want to do that either. Gets hurt after 2 years and you're on the hook. This depends if Chris Ilitch says he's going to spend money. And they did spend money last offseason. It was short-term contracts, but they did spend money, right? Flaherty on a 1-year deal. You got Torres on a 1-year deal. You got Tommy Kahnle on a 1-year deal. They did make some moves, but this team needs a shakeup. This core and nucleus needs a shakeup or a major addition of a veteran player, and they need some pitching relief. They need to up-level their pitching. The cupboards are a little bit bare right now when it comes to pitching in the lower levels of the organization, and they got to go get some bullpen arms. I'd like to see Kyle Finnegan back. I think having him invest at the back of the pen is great. I think Troy Melton's going to be a major contributor next year without a doubt. Flaherty's probably going to opt into his contract, $20 million. I don't know if he can get more, but Jackson Jobe going to be out for the year. A guy like Reese Olson, can he stay healthy? I mean, there's still a lot of question marks. What's going to come of the Kevin McGonigal's of the world, the Max Clarks? Are they going to end up ultimately coming up next year and being a part of this team? Even if they do that, I'd like them to be supplemental and additive to this team. I still think we need a bat or two. Not only do we need a bat or two, but we need some veteran guys. So last night, you look at the bench of who we could have pinch hit. You pinch hitting Jake Rogers in this game? Are you kidding me? Trey Sweeney? Really? Trey Sweeney? Of course they weren't going to do that. The only guy that really hit worth a lick, right, was, Andy Ibanez. That was, obviously that's a lefty-righty matchup. And Jahmai Jones. Jahmai Jones was great. He had that huge hit in game 4. He didn't even get a chance last night because they didn't pitch a lefty purposely to not allow that to happen. And when they did pitch a lefty, Carpenter took him yard. So again, I'll be curious to see what happens this offseason. We'll have an entire offseason to think about that. You can't help but think about what if, I think the Tigers just had so many chances last night, just so many chances. I think my most frustrating thing of last night, it is not that we lost. It's not that we lost. Yes, I'm bummed, but I appreciate the game for what it is. I'm turning over a new stone. That's what makes sports great. You open your eyes, you watch that game, and you appreciate it because when the good is good, it's awesome. And when things go bad, you got to face it. You got to take it and you got to say, we got beat. Let's get better. But you just wonder what could have been, and I'd be lying if I didn't say this, but in my core, do I think we could have beaten Toronto? Probably not. Do I think we would have had a fighter's chance? Yeah. I think Seattle's going to lose because I think they got rolled last night. I think it's really going to set them up for a bad place to start that series. But you just never know in sports, right? Just get me into the dance. It's like March Madness. And, we'll never know with the Tigers over the last 2 years. It's like the Lions year when they, won in Green Bay but didn't make the playoffs. Who knows what that team could have been? And there's no guarantees to get back here. I think Dan Campbell said it best when the Lions lost in that NFC title game. The Tigers have to know that too. You were one game away from having a chance to play for the opportunity to go to the World Series. And there's no guarantee that that's going to happen. That's 2 years back-to-back of failure getting to the ALCS. And so again, you brought back pretty much the entire nucleus this year with really the only addition from a bat perspective was Gleyber Torres, and Dylan Dingler was out of his mind this year. There's no guarantee we're going to be back here. So this is where, the common saying of like, if you don't feel yourself speeding up, if you're running a race, you guys know I'm a big runner over here. If you don't feel yourself speeding up, you're probably slowing down. You are slowing down. And I think that's what the Tigers mentality they need to take. Neutral complacency will not accelerate this team farther. Maybe you go all in one last time with Skubal and say we're going to surround him with some guys. Do you go get a guy like Bregman? Do you go get a guy like what is Pete Alonso a free agent? I'm trying to think of some of these guys that are going to be out there, but you just need to supplement this lineup with more professional hitters. Got to kind of make a decision on Green and Torque. Like, what are these guys going to be? I hope it's not the cheap answer of, well, they're under team control and we're just going to let it ride. I wouldn't mind to see a little shakeup in this locker room. I think they need a little bit of a shakeup in there, and we'll just have to take a look and just kind of see where the offseason ends up. But I know we're at 35 minutes here. I know it's kind of a short episode, but I wanted to make sure just to get on here and give my thoughts. Really disappointing loss. I think maybe I'm dealing with the hopium here, or the copium, I guess I should say, of just trying to say it was a great game of baseball to watch. I'll forever remember watching that game, even for the negative aspect of losing. And I just encourage you all out there to just, take a look at that game, and instead of just, throwing books against the wall, saying how pissed that you are, just appreciate it for what it was. Tip your cap to the Mariners, and you gotta move on, because our season's over and we didn't deserve to win. We had our chances. The Tigers can look in the mirror and say, we had our chances to win that game, and they did not. The fans didn't impact that. That was a player perspective and a player opportunity, and they did not step up to the occasion. And so they're going home. They're going golfing. They're going on their trips, whatever it is. And I think the team that we see take the field next April, I think it'll be different. I hope it's different because I want this team to win a World Series. I don't just want to get to the ALDS. I don't just want to get to the ALCS. I want a World Series. I want it. And so let's go get it. Shout out to the team. I feel like they played their heart outs no matter what. I think that they played above their talent level. I think AJ Hinch did a great job of squeezing the most he could out of this team. I trust him. I still think he's, outside of Dan Campbell, I think he's one of the best coaches, managers in Detroit. And I think he's one of the best managers in all of baseball. And I think a ton of other teams would die to have him. Same with Chris Fetter. Scott Harris, this one's on you now, buddy. You made your call at the deadline. You chose not to get aggressive, and it came back to bite you last night because your bullpen ultimately cost you. You can say what it is, 15th inning, whatever, but you didn't have enough arms in the pen. Did not have it. Didn't have enough hitters at the plate to get this done. So I hope Scott Harris holds himself accountable. I hope we don't get this situation of, look how far we made it, we should be happy. Like, no, I hope there's some eagerness here to go out there, try to make your team better, and go win a World Series. Sorry, I had to take a little sip of water there. Voice is going. But anyways, we'll see what happens in the offseason. So I'm sure this will be coming out probably on Sunday. I hope you all are doing all right and, dealing with this loss. Let's try to look at the positives. The Lions are playing Sunday night. Let's hope we can beat Kansas City, and this isn't a horrible weekend. And, we'll jump on next week to talk Lions. I'll be curious to get Steven Wilson's reaction on this Tigers game. I know, I think Steve was in a hotel room last night with his family watching his game on his phone. Wilson was complaining. I mean, it was just text flying everywhere. I'm sure you all have your own experiences of that. So curious to get their reactions. I bet they'll be a little bit more aggressive than me in their anger based on some of the texts that I saw. But, I love my Tigers, love my gritty Tigers. This game isn't going to change me from being a fan. I renewed my 1901 for next year. So I may talk a lot of smack, but it comes from a place of wanting this team to be good. So Scott Harris, if you're listening, buddy, I need you to do something. I need you to be bold and go after it. And let's try to win this offseason to try to make this team better next year. And hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Like I said, we will be back on next week. Rate, review, subscribe. If you have any questions, you know where to leave the comments, boys. So we will catch you here next week on another episode of Take the Points, a true underdog podcast. Go Tigers.